Good morning and welcome to the live one on BNET. Today is Thursday, the first day of September, and I'm your host, Lindsay Blakely. I'm in the studio today with Christine Lee, BNET's managing editor. Thanks for being here, Christine.
Good to be here. Thank you, Lindsay.
So we're going to do something a little bit different for today's show. Earlier this week, we polled our readers on the biggest management dilemmas they're facing. And we took a look at some of our best resources, some of our best tips from our expert bloggers, and we're going to reveal the top 3 concerns you're facing at work right now and talk a little bit about how to deal with them. If you have questions or comments, you want to bring up other challenges that you want us to address, go ahead and use that chat window to the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll try to get to as many of those as possible. So let's start with number 1. This one really surprised me. I don't know about you, Christine.
I was actually not surprised at all because
Really?
This is my biggest day killer.
Too.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so almost 40% of you said that dealing with email and other urgent tasks is getting in the way of doing important work. Okay, I sympathize with that.
Yeah.
That's sort of a daily struggle. So this reminded me of a post that one of our bloggers, Laura Vanderkam, wrote not that long ago. It was the best productivity tool you're not using. So she has some interesting advice here, and obviously part of this challenge is just sort of figuring out what to do with your time, when to check email, right?
And figuring out what's important and when you can take a break from the urgent to do something that contributes to the bigger picture.
Right.
Yeah.
What I liked about her advice was basically you have to carve out time to think, right? Because our work days don't actually, it's not included in the workday. And so you actually have to put it in your calendar and make sure everyone else knows that you can't be disturbed.
And those interruptions, those little interruptions, really lower the quality of your thought when you're trying to think about something strategic. You lose your train of thought, and yeah.
Right. So some of this is common sense, but I think these are still really good reminders. So a few things she says here: figure out what you'd like to think about. Easy first step, but if you haven't really spent the time to really sit down and figure out what problem you need to solve, you're going to be sort of behind the game there. Some other interesting things she has here: gather any materials you need in advance. But I think the key is actually putting it on your calendar, maybe starting out in smaller increments at first, maybe 15 minutes here and there. But whatever you do, just getting it on your calendar and making sure it's a habit, right?
Yeah, I think that's a big help.
So, Christine, what about just dealing with email itself? I mean, it's something that we all can't ignore.
So I am actually a big fan of the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is by no means a new book. It's been covered everywhere. And he's become so big that he has actually some detractors at this point. But I think he has really solid advice on 2 areas. And the first is just that this theory is an antidote to the 24 hours a day working culture that you have here in Silicon Valley. The idea that your life is not intended just for work, and to try to get your work into some sort of reasonable window that makes you happy and not let it take over your life. And he's relentless about that. So he has advice both about how to tame your email inbox at work and how to let those other irritations, scheduling and things around your personal life. He has some very practical ways for how to handle that.
So give us some concrete tips.
Right.
What do you do?
So he says at work, you should schedule windows when you answer email and respond to email. Not only should you schedule them, but you should let people know about them. You should have them in the footer of your email so that people know when they can reach you. And that way, one of the things that happens with email is once you start to answer, then someone will answer back, and then you're going back and forth, and you're not really making any forward.
Thank you, you're welcome. You can't get out of that pattern.
You're not in the forward movement area. So he says, and you should share this even with your boss. And as long as you're producing results, your boss should know when they can get a hold of you on email. And if they have other things that they want to talk about, they can call you or IM you if they need to interrupt other time.
Okay, good tips.
Yeah.
All right, so did you have more tips on that one?
Another big tip is just to delegate some of those small things that take up a lot of your time, and really think about, is there a level in dollars of decisions that your team can make for you and just report back to you on? I mean, what is the bulk of that email inbox about? Is it stuff that you really need to be weighing in on?
Right. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Your boss is the problem. And we gave readers a couple of options here. Your boss is a micromanager. He or she is incompetent. So we're not really sure what the bulk of your complaints are, but we do know that for many of you, your boss is getting in the way of you getting more work done.
And that's been a consistent theme on BNET
It
over
has.
several years. I mean, there really clearly are some issues around bosses among our readers. Yes.
So this is going to sound a little flip, but I actually think there's some good advice here. One of the most popular posts we've done on BNET is how to get your boss fired. So our blogger, Evil HR Lady, wrote about this, and this was at the prompting of, somebody wrote in and said, what can I do? Our whole team thinks that our boss is incompetent. What can we do? So a couple of suggestions that she has, and feel free to weigh in on any of these. The first one is get everything in writing. So, if your boss interrupts you, if he puts down, fellow employees, you should take note in as objective terms as you can, every instance of bad boss behavior. So that's simple enough. One of these tips I'm not so sure about, and Christine, let me know what you think, but in terms of talking with HR about these issues, one thing that has come up on BNET from time to time is that HR is not necessarily on your side, right?
And I think that's why the advice from Suzanne on Evil HR Lady is helpful, because she gives you the lowdown on when HR can help you and when they really can't.
Yeah.
So it's helpful to read what she has to say. Sometimes these issues are best handled on your own, but this post is a really good example of what you can do when things are serious, and that HR can help you if you set them up with the right information in the situation. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to jump to the third one, third biggest challenge you're dealing with right now, coming up with new ideas and executing them. When I saw this one, I was reminded of a great post we did recently, why brainstorming sucks and how to fix it. So I'm going to run through 3 quick tips here. These are actually myths. One, the more ideas, the better. This is an interesting one because we usually think an influx of ideas is the way to find the one kernel you need. But actually, the tip here is to put some restrictions around the brainstorming. So basically, you don't have to spend as much time in the slush pile. Another interesting one that we've talked about before, a group of people working together is not necessarily the best way to come up with good ideas, right?
Yeah, I think we've run into that too. And personally, I know if I can clear out a little white space and do some writing actually on the computer with ideas, then I can come to a meeting better prepared. And once you get in the room with people, sometimes you get a little vibe going and no one wants to throw out something that's completely out of the box.
Right.
A little bit of groupthink. Yeah.
All right, so those are our 3 biggest management challenges that you submitted to us. We're going to go ahead and put a story on the front of bnet.com with these resources if you want to check out the posts for more information. Christine, thanks for being in the studio with us.
Thanks for having me, Lindsay. It was fun.
And come back next week on Tuesday. We're going to be speaking with Ari Kaplan on how to build a business in digital marketing. Thanks for watching.